To solve mental health problems, we have to step outside of the thinking processes that created the problem in the first place. You can't solve a problem using the same thinking that created it. First order process thinking tends to accept the reality of the problem as it appears on the face of it. And this is unhelpful. And so we have to move to second order thinking, which recognizes that the problem is a reflection of the thought processes that created it in the first place. So let's examine how to move from non-productive first order thinking to productive second order thinking. With every mental health problem, there's a strong tendency to believe that somehow you are responsible for the problem, that there's something about you which has made this problem come into occurrence. And so there'll be a very strong tendency to say, I am the problem. This is particularly prevalent in depression and anxiety. So this is the drawing that I usually use to explain this. Normally, this is your problem, and this is you within your problem space. Now, every problem has a problem space, and if we try to solve the problem from within this problem space, we're using the same thinking that created it. So what we have to do is we have to step outside and recognize, I am not the problem, but I have a problem. Okay? I am not the problem, but I have a problem. This puts us in a position to be able to apply strategies to the problem without you recognizing or without you accepting that you are the problem. You are simply, and I don't like to use the word victim, but you are suffering from the problem, but you are not the problem. It's important because that then gives you a space to work on the problem. I am the problem, what can you do? I am not the problem, but I have a problem. Now there are many things that you can do. The second thing I want to introduce you to is the idea that anxiety is a mistake made by your brain. Now, in a previous video, I said that there are two realities, external reality and internal reality, and anxiety is always an internal reality problem. If you had an external reality threat and you were responding to that and you're feeling fear, that's not anxiety. That is adaptive fear. That's useful. That will help to keep you alive. The fight or flight program will give you extra energy to flee or to fight for survival. That's not anxiety. Anxiety is the experience of fear without a threat. Therefore, we have to recognize that anxiety is a mistake made by your brain. You are not anxious. Your brain is mistakenly giving you the experience of anxiety. And if we want to take that a little bit further, that would mean that anxiety makes you feel unsafe, but you are safe. Therefore, it tells us that your emotions are not calibrated adequately to external reality. Therefore, you are safer than you feel you are. And we have to practice recognizing that, because every day you're anxious, in essence, you're practicing being anxious. If you accept that anxiety is a valid thing to experience, then every day you're practicing being anxious, because you're every day accepting the validity of anxiety. And what we need to do is we need to say, actually, anxiety is not a valid experience. You do not need to feel anxious because anxiety is a mistake made by your brain. The third of the second level processes I'd like to introduce you to is this. Never do what anxiety tells you to do. Now, anxiety tells you to do many things to stay safe. But if anxiety is a mistake made by your brain, doing what anxiety tells you to do is not helpful because you're not under threat anyway. So trying to stay safe when you're not under threat is pointless. So never do what anxiety tells you to do. Anxiety says, I can't drive on the motorway, then drive on the motorway. Anxiety says, I can't go into town, we'll go into town. Anxiety says, I can't go somewhere unless I know where the nearest toilet is. We'll go somewhere anyway. Anxiety says, I can't speak to people I don't know. We'll speak to people you don't know. Every time you challenge anxiety, it gets weaker. And every time you do what anxiety tells you to do, anxiety gets stronger. So we're in a kind of a combat situation. It's a struggle, let's call it, right? And we want you to win. Therefore, we never do what the enemy tells us to do, because that's just playing into the enemy's hands. So I've given you 3 examples of ways in which we can activate a second level change process that will actually bring us out of the anxiety experience and turn it into a problem to solve. And as we solve the problem, it gets solved. Anxiety is not something that you need to experience. It's a mistake made by your brain. Therefore, we have to retrain your brain to stop making that mistake. I would recommend, if you're interested in genuinely retraining your brain, to investigate my Anxiety Wizard program. It is free for the first week. Thereafter, it's less than £10 a week, and it will take you through all of the processes that you need, all the second level change processes that you will need to be able to completely eradicate anxiety from your life. So thanks for taking the time to watch and listen, and good luck with the journey.